Hallelujah, amen. Hallelujah, how wonderful it is. Hine Matov, how wonderful it is that we are here together this evening. I'm so happy to see both familiar faces. It's my third Shabbat with you all, so that is great that I'm seeing familiar faces and new faces as well, and I really look forward to meeting with you and connecting more after services this evening. We are going to open our service with our candles and kiddush, and Reed is going to join us right over here. On page 2, please rise.
Are you, Adonai, our God, sovereign of the universe, who powers us with mitzvot, commanding us to kindle the light of Shabbat?
And this one just doesn't like the air conditioner there. So we'll join together in our bracha, bringing in the light and warmth and the joy of Shabbat. Baruch atah Adonai, Eloheinu melech haolam, asher kitshanu b'mitzvotav, v'tzivanu להדליק נר של Shabbat. And on page 5. Yep.
Praise to you, Adonai, our God, sovereign of the universe, creator of the fruit of the vine.
Oop. I guess it doesn't open. Baruch atah Adonai, Eloheinu melech haolam, borei peri hagafen. Amen. L'chaim. Thank you, Reed. We will continue our service with Lecha Dodi. You may be seated. As we turn to page 20, we welcome this beautiful, resplendent bride of Shabbat, and we wait all week for this moment of arrival so that we can spend these next 25 hours in rest and in connection with God. Please join with me. warmed up and ready to move into our formal call to worship, Baruch Hu asks us, are we ready? Are we prepared? The word Baruch Hu is connected to two other words that are a very important part of our Jewish liturgy. To livrech, which is knee. So we bend and we bow at the knee as we are ready to make this Baruch, this blessing to Adonai. Please rise. We continue on page 28. Join me in the Hebrew on the following page 30. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam, asher bidvaro ma'ariv aravim, b'chochma poteach she'arim, u'vitmuna mishaneh itim, u'machalif et hazmanim, u'misader et hakochavim, b'mishmerotehem barakia kirtzono, Borei yom v'layla, golel or mipnei choshech, v'choshech mipnei or. Uma'avir yom umevi layla, umavdil bein yom uvein layla Adonai tzavaot shemo. El chai v'kainam, tamid yimoch alenu leolam va'ed. Baruch atah Adonai hama'ariv aravim. Blessed are you, Adonai, who brings on the evening. We move in to that oneness, that unity of our calling of Shema, that is Adonai. Shema. We continue together. Tonight we're going to chant our Vehafta according to its Torah trope. It comes directly to us from various sections of the Torah, and this text reminds us that wherever we are, when we are closing our day, lying down to sleep, when we rise up in the morning as we go about our way, that we should always be mindful of God's presence, of bringing God's presence out into the world. We join together. Ve'ahavta et Adonai Elohecha b'chol levavecha u'b'chol nafshecha ובכל מאודיך, והיו הדברים האלה, אשר אנוכי מצווך היום על לבביך, ושיננתם לבניך, ודיברת בם, בשבתך בביתך, ובלכתך בדרך, ובשוכבך ובקומך, וקשרתם להיות על ידיך, והיו לטוטפות בין עיניך, וכתבתם על מזוזות ביתך ובישעריך, למען תזכרו ועשיתם את כל מצוותיי, והייתם קדושים לאלוהיכם. אני אדוני אלוהיכם, אשר הוצאתי אתכם מארץ מצרים, להיות לכם אלוהים. אני אדוני אלוהיכם, אדוני אלוהיכם, amen. And we continue together on page 41 in the English of our redemption song. Sing the song of men and women, joined in understanding and respect, the song of God's miracles, an earth protected and cherished, a gift for our children and the generations to come. The song of a land once ravished by war, now quiet and content, her soldiers home to leave no more. The song of a world redeemed, the song of peace. Crossed the sea. They crossed into the unknown. And suddenly they were lost. They were in the wilderness, Bamidbar. And so Hashkivenu reminds us that even when we are at our most vulnerable, God is always there to wrap God's wings and shelter of peace around us. Let there be love and understanding among us. People arrived at the promised land, and they sang with joy, just as we sing with joy, Yismechu, our gladness for this amazing time. joyfully welcome this sacred time. We move into our tefillah, our standing prayer, where we can have a few moments to share our innermost thoughts with the divine. We join together on page 46. Please rise. Adonai sefatai tiftach ufi agid tehilatecha. Adonai, open up my lips that my mouth may declare your praise. Baruch atah Adonai, Eloheinu v'Elohei avoteinu v'imotenu, Elohei Abraham, Elohei Yitzhak, v'Elohei Yaakov, Elohei Sarah, Elohei Rivka, Elohei Rachel, v'Elohei Leah, Ha'el Hagadol, Hagibor v'Hanora, El Elyon, Gomel Chasadim Tovim v'Konei Hakol, v'Zocher Chastei Avot v'Imavot, U'mevei Geula livnei v'neihem, Lema'an Shemo b'Ahava, Melech Ozer Moshiach U'Maken, Baruch atah Adonai, Magid Avraham ve'Ezrat Sarah, Atah Gibor le'olam Adonai, Mechayei hakol atah Rav le'Hoshia, Morid hatah, Mechalkel chayim bechesed, Mechayei hakol berachamim rabim, Somech noflim verofech olim, Umatir asurim, Umekayem emunato, Lishenei afar, Michamocha ba'al gevurot, Umidol melach, Melech mimit, Umechayeh, Umatzmiach Yeshua, V'ne'eman atah l'hachayot hakol, Baruch atah Adonai, Mechayeh hakol, Atah kadosh v'shimcha kadosh, U'kedoshim ho yom yehalelucha selah, Baruch atah Adonai, Ha'el hakadosh. Please be seated. We turn in our prayer books to page 61 as we join together in the English and the Hebrew in our prayer for peace. Grant us peace, your most precious gift, O eternal source of peace, and give us the will to proclaim its message, to proclaim its message to all the peoples of the earth. Bless our country as a safeguard of peace, its advocate among the nations. May contentment reign within our borders, health and happiness within our homes. Strengthen the bonds of friendship and fellowship among all the inhabitants of every land. Plant virtue in every soul, and may the love of your name hallow every home and heart. Praised are you, Eternal One, who blesses our people Israel with peace. Baruch atah Adonai, hamevarech et amo Yisrael b'shalom. Shalom Rav, all Yisrael Olcha, Tasim le'olam. Shalom Rav, all Yisrael Olcha, Tasim le'olam. Ki atah melech adon, everyone at some point calls out for healing. Healing of body, healing of mind, healing of spirit, of soul. And so we come to that point in our service where we hold the names of those in our lives, maybe it's even ourselves, who are in need of that healing, that refuah shlema, complete renewal of body, soul, and spirit. We join together in Mishaberach. Shabbat shalom. Okay, I know we can do better than that. Shabbat shalom. There we go. We have quite a Torah portion with us this weekend. This is the tale of a king, an emissary, a talking donkey, and an angel. Have you ever heard of a talking donkey? When I think of this parsha, I think of the many talking animals we come across in fairyland and on television. Talking mice, hello Mickey and Minnie. Talking horses, talk to Mr. Ed. The white rabbit, the Cheshire cat, my favorite. Winnie the Pooh, the list is endless. This week we move from mourning the death of Miriam and Aaron to fraught battles with different nations as the Israelite children continue toward the promised land. The Israelites defeat the Edomites, Canaanites, Amorites, and Amorites, is that enough ites for you, and have arrived in the land of Moab. Now, what do these talking animals have to do with these fights? We'll see in a little bit. But as true in our fairyland and on television, it's the talking animals that always have the message to teach us. Understandably, the king of Moab, Balak, is quaking. The people of Israel are at the border of his land, and he has heard of their fierce overthrowing of the previous peoples. So he sends messengers to Balaam, an advice giver of sorts. Some may even call him a prophet, hoping to at least lessen the numbers of this great people who seem to cover the earth from view. He asks of Balaam, "Ve'ata ichana et ha'am, hazeh ki atzum hu mimenu, ulai uchal naked bo, ve'agar shenu min haaretz, ki yadati et asher tevarech mivorach Asher ta'or you are. Balaam, curse these people for me, because I know that those whom you bless are very, very blessed, and those whom you curse are very, very cursed. Well, how do we know that they are so very blessed and so very cursed, and maybe not just a little bit blessed and a little bit cursed? Because the words tivarech mivorach and ta'or you are significant. Using the same word twice in Torah encourages the reader to draw deeper meaning from the text and indicates that Balaam has a truly sacred gift, the power to create the highest good or great despair. We have yet to come across our talking donkey, but we already know that we are on a mystical journey and that Balaam seems to be a prophet. God appears to Balaam in the following sentence, as if bewildered that Balak would send such a person to ask Balaam to curse the Jews. Why Balaam? Balaam interprets this line of questioning from God as an insult and responds to God, although I am of no importance in your eyes, I am of significance in the eyes of kings. It is as though Balaam has taken Balak's words deeply to heart, that his power of cursing and blessing is so extraordinary and beyond that of all else, so much so that he regards God's appearance as an insulting distraction from the wealth that he sees potentially coming from King Balak, that wealth and respect, rather than God's appearance as a blessing. God leaves Balak with a significant warning as God leaves Balaam with a significant warning as he sets out with the other emissaries toward the people of Israel to deliver the curse. Whatever I command you, you shall do. God is so angry that God devises a plan to put Balaam in his place. 3 times his donkey stops in the middle of her path, unwilling to pass by an angel of God standing with a sword in the way. The donkey turns back from the trail, led away by the angel 3 times. And then 3 times, Balaam hits the donkey in anger. God opens the mouth of the donkey and she says to Balaam, "What have I done to you that you hit me 3 times? Am I not your faithful donkey whom you always ride? Have I ever done this to you before?" As Balaam replies, "No," God opens Balaam's eyes, and Balaam can finally see the angel of God standing before him. Balaam understands his blindness in that moment. In those moments, he became associated with Balak and Balak's cruel intentions. Balaam becomes humbled before God. God commands Balaam, "You may continue to go with the men towards the Israelites, but you may say nothing except what I tell you." This near repeat of God's earlier words, "Whatever I command you, you shall do," reminds us, as well as Balaam in the moment, that our actions and speech should serve only our highest good and not our fear, ego, greed, or low intent. Ultimately, God's blessing will pour forth from Balaam's mouth as he looks at the people of Israel from above in their tents below. Matovu halecha Yaakov mishknotecha Yisrael. How beautiful are your tents, O Jacob, your dwelling places, O Israel. Balak is afraid for himself and for his kingdom. He fears defeat of his land and of his ego. He does not want to be made small. Balaam seems to have a connection with the divine, what the rabbis in Midrash call Ruach HaKodesh, or spirit of the divine. And Balaam may have been a prophet when Balak initially reached out to him. The Torah calls Balaam the son of Beor, the soothsayer. Ultimately, though, Balaam becomes distracted by and desirous of King Balak's riches. Instead of using his sacred talent for his highest good and that of his community, he directs it towards greed, ego, and evil. Rambam suggests that even though God initially appears to Balaam later in this story, God has to open Balaam's eyes so that he sees the angel with the sword standing in the donkey's way. Balaam then could not be a prophet, says Rambam, because Balaam required the opening of his eyes to see the angel. Midrash Bamidbar, another story within a story, comments that Balaam partook of this holy connection, this Ruach HaKodesh, but after associating with Balak, the Ruach HaKodesh departed from him. From this wild story of a king and an emissary, a talking donkey, and a blessing, we learn that the words and actions we choose to bring into the world carry significance. We have an incredible choice. We can put forth the effort, time, speech, and action that serves the best of ourselves and our community, and in doing so, we allow God to be ever more present in this world. Or we can follow Balak and Balaam and keep God hidden from view. To be sure, continuing to serve our best selves is practice, and we are never perfect. In moments like this, our liturgy can help us speak the words that we do not know how to say. May the words of my mouth, the meditations of my heart, be acceptable to you, Adonai, my rock and my redeemer. Please join me together on page 62 in these words.
Adonai
together, Amen. We turn now to our concluding portions of our service as we rise on page 283 for Aleinu. And I will invite Reed to join me in opening the ark, because I have not figured out quite yet how to open it. Aleinu l'shabeach la'adon ha'kol, la'teit gedula le'oser b'reishit, shehu sam chelkenu le'ached et shemo, ve'gor aleinu le'hamlich malchuto, va'anachnu korim, u'mishtachavim u'modim, lifnei melech, malchei hamlachim, HaKadosh Baruch Hu, V'nemar, V'haya Adonai, L'melech al kol haaretz, Bayom hahu, Yeh Adonai echad, U'shemo Please be seated. Our thoughts turn now to those who have departed this earth, our own loved ones, those whom our friends and neighbors have lost, the martyrs of our people whose graves are unmarked, and those of every race and nation whose lives have been a blessing to humanity. As we remember them, we meditate on the meaning of love and loss, of life and death. This week, our community remembers Joshua Fink, Raymond Allen Sr., Dr. Stanley Frager, Emil Briner, Florence Goodfriend, Leonard W. Levine, Doris Myers, Helen Siegel, Herbert Jenkins, Thelma Kahn, Benjamin Abrams, Carl Marenblum, Max Siegel, Regina Ades, Esther Graver, Isaac Maya, Robert Pell, Fanny Feidelson, Maxine Hellman Augenblick, Minna Benjamin, Richard Cantor, Harold Miller, Harriet Friedberg Pitluck, Joseph Schuster, Alec Spielberg, Bernard Cohen, Kurt Frank, Gail Garlove, Max Gordon, Otto Harrison, Eleanor Harrison, Sydney Coach, Elaine Lipsky, Norton Cohen, Elaine Eager, Jean Friedberg, Maxine Friedman, James Glassock, Daryl Goldberg, Jerome L. Markovitz, Regina Markovitz, Alan Markovitz, Barbara Myers, and in recent days, Lisa Lipsky. For all those and those whose names we hold in our hearts, and those who no longer have anyone to say Kaddish for them, we rise now as we turn to our Kaddish prayer, page 294, joining together in the Hebrew. Yitgadal v'yitkadash shemei Rabbah, ve'alma divrah chirutei, ve'amlich malchutei, ve'chayechon u'v'yomechon, u'v'chayei techol beit Yisrael, ba'agala u'bizman kariv yimru amen. Yehei shemei Rabbah mevorach leolam u'lalmei almaya. Yitbarach v'yishtavach v'yitpa'ar v'yitromam v'yitnaseh. V'yithadar v'yitaleh v'yithalal shemei d'kudsha barichu. Le'elam min kol birchata v'shirata tushbechata v'nechemata da'amiron me'alma v'yimru. Amen. Yehi Shalom Rabba Min Shemaya, V'chayim Aleinu Ve'al Kol Yisrael, V'yiru Amen. Oseh Shalom Yirumav, Hu Ya'aseh Shalom, Aleinu Ve'al Kol Yisrael, V'yiru Amen. And before we join in our closing song, after we join together in our closing song, we'll make motzi together before heading into the Friedman social hall. And join with me, hallelujah, the same way we began. How wonderful it is to be together. Hallelujah. Baruch atah Adonai, Eloheinu melech haolam, hamotzi lechem min haaretz. Amen. Shabbat shalom, everyone. Thank you for being here.